Cord. All right, go
Okay,
ahead.
great. So anyway, the conference that I originally was wanting to address is called Cultivating Our Future Together. And it's intended for acupuncturists and Chinese herbalists and all of us who are in this profession in one way or another. Um, and the sponsors rejected my proposal because, like I was saying, I see the subject quite a bit differently than the currently prevailing leaders of our profession do. So I want this to be the beginning of a kind of a dialogue that we can have in the profession. And it will be controversial, and I want it to be, and it needs to be at this point. And you'll understand what I'm talking about as I go along. So if we're going to really cultivate our future together as a profession, that's really what they're talking about with this proposal for this gathering. Um, I would really like to cultivate our future together. And if that's true, especially for you people who are just starting your practices, it's time for you to get ready because you're about to launch into some of the most powerful years of your career in Chinese medicine if you're just beginning, right? Your beginning years are going to be chock full of optimism, right? Enthusiasm, energy, curiosity. Most importantly, I think ignorance. Ignorance is the most powerful of them all, really. Out of all this list of positive things, the optimism, the enthusiasm, the energy, the curiosity, the power of ignorance leads to a challenge to learn or to just stay ignorant and curious to discover. That works too, really well. It works really well. So I think if we can respect our ignorance and uh, be aware of it and be humble about it. That's one of the most important things that we can do at any level when we're a practitioner, because that's what drives us forward and makes us better practitioners over time, right? So the real trick is to be aware and responsible for your ignorance and to let it work for you. So ignorance is actually our best ally right now. And when you're first beginning to practice Chinese medicine, very much so. But here's the problem. Your professional image won't let you admit to your ignorance. So you'd be caught in a paradox right from the start, because this professional image kind of flies in the face of who we really are when we first start as practitioners. And this is something that we're taught to do, and it's insincere from the get-go. So that's a paradox, and we'll talk about that a little bit as we go along in the talk here, right? Um, but one of the things I want to say is don't worry for you beginning practitioners, because most of those positive qualities that you have right now, those are going to get used up over the next 3 to 5 years. So all that optimism, enthusiasm, the energy, the curiosity, some of the ignorance, which might, if you're not careful, be replaced by arrogance if you're excessively focused on professional development, which is kind of hard not to do when you're first starting your practice. And depending on where you are and what's going on in your practice, we can all get pushed into that corner in one way. But how we do it is really important, I think. So anyway, these positive aspects, they all get used up, either in the effort of trying to make it professionally or in the effort of making it professionally on the other side and trying to sustain it. And I know all of you more seasoned practitioners will nod your head. It takes a lot, right? So what happens in our practices is that there's you'll hit this kind of doldrums from year 5 till around year 20 in your practice. So that's about 15 years, what I call the burning ground. I'm not the only longtime practitioner to notice this, by the way. It's a well-known phenomenon. So if you're smart during this burning ground of those 15 years when the optimism, all that stuff is gone, that burning ground, it'll be a time of diversification, exploration for you. It can be a time to get your life together, a time to take off your healer's hat sometimes and heal yourself. It's very, very important. Don't forget about healing yourself as you're going through these years, this epic journey of practicing Chinese medicine. All too many people either completely ignore it or put it way at the back burner of life. And we need to keep it at the forefront of what our healing is. because that's going to keep us on our edge as healers. And it's where the juice is anyway, right? Uncomfortable, but true. Mhm. So if you're smart, that burning ground, it'll be a time of diversification, right? Getting your life together. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, any of this at this happy moment of graduation, sometime just as an experiment, right? Go to an acupuncture conference and practice your techniques of observation. It's easy to spot how long each practitioner has been in business if you really just look at people. You look at their faces, their postures, their clothes, their attitudes, their energies, right? And a lot of people who are in that burning ground, they get this kind of devastated and desperate look in their eyes because they're searching for so much. I'm not kidding, right? It's easy to spot the greedy ones also because they're the ones who are really smiling, these sort of inauthentic smiles. You see them in the acupuncture magazines and they're on the internet a lot too, right? But the early birds, the Groms in the years 1 through 5, they're really full of this optimism and they want to market themselves. They want to be part of something. They want to join associations. They want to latch on to something that'll give them a sense of power because they don't have any themselves yet, right? It's just beginning. I can't say I don't have any, but it's just beginning. Not enough to really wield a big weapon. So they want to show themselves off and they want to show off, right? As new practitioners, they want to demonstrate the Dunning-Kruger effect for everybody to see, right? I don't know if you've ever seen the list that the NCCAOM puts out of all the things they expect you to do in your community to educate the public about what we do as Chinese medicine practitioners. That list is so insane. It actually reads like a comedy script, but it's not. Because they want you to be active and engaged and basically spending all of your non-practice time um, out in the community and being a cheerleader for Chinese medicine. I'm not saying that's wrong, but there's no way that it's sustainable as a lifestyle. So we need the people and the youthful enthusiasm for people to do that for sure. And it needs to come full circle. We need to have some of the more sagely practitioners in that loop as well. Hmm? Um, so anyway, in this burning ground period, years 5 to 20, a lot of the people are actually physically sick. A lot of the practitioners physically sick. They're disturbed. They're kind of taciturn and kind of dark. Again, except for the greedy ones, right? They hide their darkness and they smile for the camera because that's what good business tells all of us to do. Mhm. But again, it locks us into a paradox that is insincere, and I don't think it serves us or our patients really. And not saying you have to be like some kind of dark figure out there in the public, not at all. But we can't lose touch with the sincerity of who we are as people as we practice, right? We don't want to base our public image and business persona on a lie, right? Because it tells you, and I'm sure you learned this in acupuncture school also, that image tells you need to convince people to come see you, even though you have virtually no experience in the field. And most of us, when we get out of school, we just have enough experience just to pass the board exams, or maybe we took some extra classes or joined a special mentorship program to learn a fabulous technique, right? That fabulous technique will make you better than any of the other acupuncturists out there. This is kind of this convincing game we're trying to do with the public, right? Even though you have practically no experience in the field, right? So very few practitioners make it past that burning ground the first 20 years of becoming an acupuncturist. It's a fact. It's actually been really thoroughly verified that acupuncture isn't even a financially viable profession because there's no way under normal circumstances that you can even make back the money that it cost you to study Chinese medicine and get your license. So in the US, the TCM schools were actually supposed to close down because of this study, but they didn't. So that's the picture. So I want you to begin to focus on the phrase that I just said, under normal circumstances, okay? Because in your practice, you're going to want to make sure that you never, ever practice under normal circumstances. That's my advice to you, okay? You're going to need to be different. And I strongly advocate doing Qigong if you want to survive past your first 5 years of practice physically, psychically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and on a business level too, right? Do that Qigong. It's really important. But is that what acupuncturists do under normal circumstances? Apparently not, because I don't see a whole lot of acupuncturists doing that. Some. But how seriously do they take it? Well, that's the heart of what we're doing, working with the qi, right? So why do you want to do Qigong? And I strongly suggest starting with Minjie Qigong if you haven't already, because it gives you a really solid foundation that you can add other Qigong forms to after you have that foundation. But if you don't have that foundation, it's going to be very difficult to develop yourself and develop your sense of Qi, right? So why do you want to do it? It's because you're going to be coming into contact with disease every single working day. That's if you're successful. And no matter what you think or what you want to believe, being around all that disease is going to have an effect on you. You're going to hear stories, lots and lots of stories, too many stories, right? Every single day. Your patients are going to bring you into their lives. They're going to trust you. At the same time they're trusting you, they're also going to have gigantic and unrealistic expectations of you. They're going to want you to do magic. They're going to want you to take away the consequences of how they've lived their lives. They're going to want you to be their therapist, their doctor, their priest, their shaman, their nutritionist, their banker, their best friend, their most trusted confidant, all these things rolled into one, right? They're going to want you to bring all the magic of their projection of the perfect healer to them on demand every time you see them. Okay. They're going to want some kind of catharsis. They're going to expect and insist to have some kind of psychedelic journey straight into the heart of creation every time they get on your table. They're going to want to meet God when they walk into your office, right? They'll expect and demand that you're a God, actually, or a very intimate, personal emissary of God that exists solely for their pleasure, to serve their whims and fantasies, right? To make them successful. So they're going to want you to make them automatically and spontaneously achieve all of those goals that society promises are going to be theirs if they just conform and sacrifice their souls and the souls of their children, their children's children, in perpetuity to its demands of society. All the promises on every level that aren't ever really fulfilled, but we all desperately seek them. They're all desperately sought after. It's all going to rest on your shoulders and your shoulders alone to fulfill automatically and effortlessly as an acupuncturist, right? Ask some of the senior practitioners if what I'm saying is true. It's true. People have all these expectations. It's crazy, but it's true. It's a reality, right? And if you don't meet their expectations, they don't just go to somebody else who they think will fulfill that impossible list, right? They'll hit social media and they'll flame you. They'll make sure nobody else ever comes to see you again. So it's like this tremendous oppositional force we have to deal with. It's funny and it's true, and it's ridiculous what we have to contend with. But it is the truth, right? Now, there you'll be, okay? And that's just on a professional level, okay? What about on a personal level? Do we ever consider that when we're beginning our career in Chinese medicine? Do you really think you're going to have a fulfilling personal life after going through all of that every working day, dealing with the disease and all these projections and everything? After taking care of people all day and probably into the night at work, because you want to be flexible to work into other people's schedules, huh? What are you going to need to do when you get home? You're going to need to take care of yourself. It's imperative, right? And what about the authentic demands of your partner and your family and friends, assuming you have any of these at this point in your practice, right? And what about all their demands that aren't authentic? And they desperately want you to fulfill with your unflagging energy and attention that you give your patients all day, right? So my late teacher of Chinese medicine and mentor, Dr. Lai Yaqi, he used to say to me frequently, the most difficult job in the world isn't being a doctor, it's being a doctor's partner. So that's something to really keep in mind with you and your family if you have one, because it's really a significant thing that we need to address with some gravity when we get into this profession. So on another level, a more social level, do you know what happens to you when you meet people for the first time and you tell them you practice Chinese medicine, right? And all the advanced practitioners are rolling their eyes right now. And the reason why is that whole list of expectations and demands that people have, it instantly arrives between you and the person that you just met. And they'll expect you to fulfill everything on that list on the spot. They'll want you to take care of all their medical problems right there spontaneously for free, right? They'll want you to tell them to drink celery juice or something like that. So all their karmas will disappear automatically, right? If it's not celery juice, it'll be something else that's dirt cheap that you can get on sale at the supermarket. And as soon as they find out what that is, they'll remove you as the middleman as quickly as possible. And if you don't deliver, actually, they won't know what to say to you when you tell them that you practice Chinese medicine, right? Because they'll be afraid of you on some level. They're afraid because you might be able to see something they don't know about themselves or something they're hiding, right? So what they'll do is they'll do what they can to distance themselves from you in one way or another. So it does this weird thing to social bonding when people find out. I went on a trip to Fiji maybe 20 years ago or something, and I met this really interesting person. She was a kind of an older middle-aged woman, and we were there in Fiji and we're having a good time. People say, "Oh, hey, what do you do for a profession?" She said, "I'm a janitor and I specialize in cleaning toilets." And everybody go like, and so they back off. Well, it turned out she was a heart surgeon, but she learned over time. I learned she was a heart surgeon because I told her, what I would do, and I connected with her because she had good energy. And but she told me that she learned over time to never ever tell anybody that she's a heart surgeon, or else she gets the whole family history of everybody's heart conditions all the time. That's all they ever get to talk about. So it's something to keep in mind, right? Anyway, it all boils down to this. Where are you going to find the time, the space, and the energy for you when you start practicing? And are you going to survive the success of your acupuncture practice if you're really successful, right? Now, that's just all on a personal level, right? So we talked about professional level, personal level. But look, we are impersonal, holistic thinkers, aren't we? So we're natural scientists. And so we need to look at things systemically. So let's begin to take a look at the global context, the bigger picture of what your life is going to be and what it's going to become if you somehow survive your career choice and you're successful, okay? So that brings us to the part of our talk that was rejected by the Acupuncture Association. And here it is. It's pretty simple. And my viewpoint is it's time for us to take a realistic view of the future of our medicine in a holistic context of our future as a planet. And I think it's very important for us to get out of our Pollyanna idealism, which is driven by fear and greed and this longing to be accepted and validated by a collapsing Western medical authority. And it is collapsing. It's going extinct. We have to get real about that. Okay? Let's take a strong and sober look at reality. I think this is the important thing. We need to look at reality. Let's come to understand and act on. There's tremendous advantages that we have to create a future that's actually much brighter and more appealing than what we've been pursuing so far as a profession. Okay. So allow me to give you some context. In less than 100 years, the war machine of the military industrial complex, including petroleum, industrial ag, and pharma, right, is driven our planet into ecological collapse in less than 100 years, okay? And now that military industrial complex is referred to differently. It's called the military industrial information complex, right? And in just a few years, completely contrary to all the promises of tech, it's driven us deeply into global social, political, ideological, and economic collapse. Okay, and AI is accelerating this process so quickly that soon I don't have to, it's become like a saw now. Life as we know it, it's going to become completely unrecognizable from anything we've previously known or experienced, if it continues at all. And we can't lose touch of that possibility, right? And that process I'm talking about, that everybody's talking about, that everybody's feeling, right? It's very accelerated in the field of Western medicine, okay? And for all of its advances, right, which I don't deny in any way, for all of the advances of Western medicine, it's completely lost touch with the people it's supposed to be helping. And those people, the patients, are totally fed up with the inhuman and bureaucratic and technological face of Western medicine at this point. And those patients, they're demanding substantial alternatives immediately, right now, right? Those patients are angry, and they should be. They should be. I mean, on many levels, the whole system around what's happened with Western medicine, it's not the medicine itself, it's how it's being practiced and how it's been taken over by corporate interests. So patients are angry and they should be. They have a right to be, and they're looking for alternatives. And all those patients, they probably should be our patients, your patients. Why? And this is the really positive part. Chinese medicine provides very personal solutions to each and all of these following issues, okay? Our medicine, it provides zero tech solutions, zero tech at nearly zero cost, okay? Let me say that again, zero tech at nearly zero cost, okay? Now, in any other field of business, that would be considered to be the holy grail of capitalism, okay? So somebody stands to benefit greatly from this equation. And I'm telling you, it's you and hopefully your patients as well, all right? The only ones who won't benefit from it are the folks at Big Pharma, which actually is the fourth leg of the military industrial informational medical complex, right? But beyond that, our medicine actually brings so much more, right? So you think about it, I'm a big herbalist. I push herbalism and I push learning about acupuncture from the place of qi rather than learning these too many systems. We have to have the qi intact. We have to develop our actual sensitivity because if we just use systems, it's not going to connect with anything real. Okay. So anyway, I'm a big herbalist. And so our medicine, Chinese medicine, growing and using herbs, it stimulates and supports local economies where these herbs are grown, right? And it creates a global network of local economies that are based on local terroir. And that's super, super important. That's the basis of our medicine. We're taking bits of these different local environments that have been applied by a very specific and highly developed culture in order to give us the medicine that we have. It's not just the herb itself. It's how that herb is grown, picked, processed, stored. All these things go into Chinese medicine. It's not just the herbs themselves. Okay, this is important. There's a very important cultural dimension, and there are all these local economies that are dependent on us making the formulas that we make. Okay, so beyond that, in just Chinese medicine practitioners, we have a truly different worldview and a very different medical model that gives perspective and answers a lot of the practical solutions to many of the issues that Western medicine cannot solve through its current means and methods. This is really important to keep in mind, okay? So in essence, our medicine provides an actual true organic grassroots diversity that cultivates resilience to the dangers of the technological monoculture and its direct medical expression, which is technomedicine, the technomedicine that we have today, okay? So that's the part that the Acupuncture Association didn't want me to talk about at the conference. But I think it's very important because they don't want to get out of this Pollyanna idealism, okay? They're so focused, and most of the profession is so focused on being complementary that they tend to ignore the actual alternative medicine part of what we're doing, that we could spend the rest of our lives going deeply into, that's deeply important, and the patient and we will benefit so much from going more and more deeply into that. Sure, we have to be complementary to a certain degree, but we cannot lose touch with the fact that we are practicing an alternative medicine, okay? It's really important, okay? So I applaud them for wanting to be complementary, but we can't lose touch with our own medicine. And that's happened in most, if not all, the acupuncture schools. All right. So I'm also happy, really happy, that there's still a place in the hearts and minds of many practitioners to have actual diversity and dialogue in our profession. That's really important. So the conclusion here, at least according to me, okay, and this is my invitation into a true discussion, ongoing dialogue, okay? My conclusion is that we're radicals, actually, okay? So why are we pretending that we aren't, okay? Who do you think we're fooling when we go and try and do all this complementary business? Who do you think we're fooling? It's hilariously funny if you look at it objectively. We're not fooling anybody but ourselves, right? Because in my observation opinion, we don't need to, and we probably don't want to fit into the Western medical model. Because here's what our profession's been doing up until now. This is what it looks like, okay? It's like this. We live on this beautiful, isolated tropical island, okay? It's paradise. And we're in the middle of the ocean, and off in the distance, we see this big ship, and it's coming our way. And that ship is on fire. And what have we done? We've gotten into our canoes and we're paddling as fast as we can to go jump onto that burning ship. That's what we've been doing as a profession, okay? What have we been thinking in this profession of ours until now, right? Have we been thinking like Chinese medicine doctors? I don't think so. Right? It's time to respect ourselves and stop asking permission from a dead authority, okay? And bring the solutions that only we can bring to where they're most needed. And that's to the patients who are not getting served or underserved by corporate Western medicine. And often they're getting abused by it. Let's just be real. The abuse is tremendous, okay? And this is good news and not bad news for you. And it's not bad news for your patients, right? Because you have a truly alternative medical model and a medical system to serve your patients. And this is right now. It's not in some theoretical future fairyland of medicine that the leaders of our profession up until now would have us believe and buy into, right? They've been pushing it on us, right? Let's look into the future of our medicine in a realistic way, in a truly holistic context, okay? Because we're systemic thinkers, we need to look at our future as a planet. Okay, and that's more good news. Why? Because pharma won't be pharma anymore. Very soon, pharma will not be pharma anymore. It's mostly going to be genetic medicine. Okay. And what I'm talking about, if you don't know already, what I'm talking about is the most significant thing that happened with the COVID vaccinations, right? Beyond all the outrageous levels of fraud and everything that surrounded and permeated them, was that they premiered and field tested a new kind of medicine. And then that medicine, they can get our own bodies to produce a new kind of substance by reprogramming our RNA, right? Now that they have the ability to do that, it's the prime direction that pharma is going in, right? Is to develop these medicines, right? So they've set it up legally for decades now, because vaccines can get around nearly all of the testing procedures. So that's why they've done this, right? So big pharma is making drugs in the form of vaccines now to get our own bodies to produce the chemicals that they used to have to pay for, right? And the reason why, it's high tech at nearly zero cost once they develop it. They've developed it. Now, I'm actually kind of hopeful for this kind of medicine. It's very promising in a number of ways, especially if we can expand it with some different worldviews, right? Because soon we could have an era of completely individualized and optimized medicine for each and every one of us. And we could have an entire customized pharma based on our own unique DNA, right? That's where it's headed. That's the dream. Hmm? And so the power of that is potentially amazing. But like with everything in reality, there's one little caveat. Hmm? And that caveat is that scientists make everything seem simple when it's not. Life is complex, and complexity escapes their model every single time. They don't have any way to model complexity sufficiently, okay? And when they introduce seemingly simple linear solutions into our nonlinear bodies and into the complexity of the real world, the result often seems to be catastrophe somewhere down the line. I can't think of an exception, honestly. So are we as practitioners, are we going to be able to mitigate the damage that genetic medicine is going to cause to humanity and to our patients? I don't know, but I'm hopeful, right? So far, it's been the greatest challenge that I've ever experienced in 40 years of practicing Chinese medicine, right? They're just getting the ball rolling with this, right? But our ball as Chinese medicine practitioners, it's been rolling for over 3,000 years, okay? Plus, we have nature and complexity on our side because Chinese medicine is a natural science of complexity. So what's the natural part? In order to have a more holistic view of the future of our medicine, we need to take a deeper look into the future of our world outside of the field of medicine, okay? To take that holistic view. And what do we see there? Right? We see, take a look at the news, take a look at anything, right? Global refugees, political, environmental, ideological, racial, even medical refugees, right? Everyone's looking for a safe place to land. But the problem is no place is safe. Okay. We see globalization happening, right? There's outsourcing of jobs, destruction of local economies. It's forcing people all over the world into cities. So the agricultural basis of our pyramid of necessity has become inverted. So historically, this is exactly what's triggered the collapse of every society that has gotten to this point. Do we need to worry about it? Right? No, because we're so special, right? And better than every society that preceded us? That's exactly what every society that has preceded us has thought as well, right? What we see technological monoculture, okay? What I mean when I say that is while using the language of inclusivity, tech is forcing a singular worldview that only validates the people and the algorithms that participate according to its rules, right? And those rules are created and owned by that military, industrial, informational, medical complex that I've been talking about. And pharma is a primary player in that game. And it's doing everything it can to quietly and not so quietly and completely erase all forms of competition with its model of medical reality. Okay, so who do we think we're fooling with being complementary? Okay, to some degree, yes, we want to play fair, right? But contrary to what you might have been led to believe in acupuncture school, pharma isn't dreaming about the coming days of integrative medicine, right? They play hardball. And the truth is, they want you dead. They want you wiped out as practitioners. Okay. And they don't need to do it legally, and they aren't doing it legally. Okay. All they need to do is change public opinion, and they're doing that every day in every way they can. Okay. Pharma owns the schools, they own the media, and they're brainwashing future generations into an ideology that's based on creating a need for pharma, okay, and a physical need, right? They're creating a whole generation that absolutely requires Western medicine to survive. Why? Because they're destroying the kids' immune systems by over-vaccinating them and feeding them this horrible food, right? Getting them onto pharmacological drugs at criminally young ages. And it all creates a lifetime of dependency. That's what it's about. Okay, there's nothing really altruistic about what's happening here. Okay. Now, are we going to be able to mitigate the damage that that whole complex, that military industrial informational medical complex is doing to humanity and the future of humanity through the children? I don't know. Again, I don't know. And the first to say I don't know, but I'm hopeful because they're just getting that ball rolling. And our ball has been rolling for 3,000 years, over 3,000 years, at least 3,000 years, right? Plus, like I said before, we have nature and complexity on our side. And Chinese medicine, let's not forget who we are. It's a natural science of complexity. Okay. But again, let's get away from medicine and look at the big picture. Okay, on a social level, we have grassroots disintegration. Society is built on networks of trust. And those networks have been completely broken down. And we encounter corporate personnel routinely lying to us in order to take our money. Lying in general has become common in the workspace, right, in the name of business. Again, business. Okay, business has become a social foil for a fundamental degradation of morality. And we have to take a stand against that and practice with integrity and put ourselves out there with a level of integrity that is unknown in the world right now, right? Okay. And on personal level, we see different versions of the same themes, right? Friendships and personal bonds, they're dissolving over political and ideological issues, right? It's all based on product marketing. If you look deeply enough, friends turning against friend, brother against brother, sister against sister, sister against brother, brother against sister, non-binary, sister against non-binary brother, non-binary brother against non-binary sister, right? That will never end. So we've all gone awash in this. It's not a sea of information, it's a sea of lies and brainwashing. But we call it marketing. We have these euphemisms for everything that that is happening, right? We can't buy into it. Huh? Are we going to be able to mitigate the damage that all that tech-sponsored grassroots disintegration of society is doing to humanity? I don't know, but I'm hopeful. I know that with the patients that I practice with every day, people come to me and they say, my God, you're the only person that I can share who I really am sincerely with. That's a hugely important thing right now, you guys. This is a hugely important thing. People will come to you with whatever fraction of sincerity is left in their being when they sense it in you. And they're going to trust you with something that's more important than anything in the world right now. Okay? Remember, this whole thing, this other thing that's going on. That ball is just getting rolling. Our ball's been rolling for over 3,000 years. We have nature and complexity on our side. Chinese medicine is a natural science of complexity. We have to keep reminding ourselves of that, and we're practicing that all the time. Okay. What about the wars? The wars that we hear about, many others we don't hear about. The wars we hear about cover up the wars we don't hear about, and those are the ones that are the most dangerous, like the war against alternative medicine, while we pretend that's not happening, right? All those scenarios here, these are the classical preconditions for the arrival of plagues. Okay, there are going to be more and more plagues because we haven't done anything to change the conditions that are creating them. Okay, are we going to be able to mitigate that damage that the current and upcoming plagues are doing to humanity? I don't know, but again, I'm hopeful. That ball's just getting rolling. Okay, we have nature and complexity on our side. Chinese medicine is a natural science of complexity. We need to embody that. All right, so where do we take this map of the future? Doesn't look pretty. Where do we take it as acupuncturists and herbal practitioners? Okay. How much longer do you imagine that we will be allowed to practice openly and publicly? This is a shocking thing for us to consider as a profession, but we have to consider it, right? At some point, going underground may be our strongest tactic in the face of what's happening in our ever-changing world right now. We need to look at that as a strong possibility, right? Looking at the big picture in the holistic context as we are, right? We may not be able to have a career in Chinese medicine in the future of this planet and humanity, but you may get the chance to become a hero. Okay. I don't know, but I'm hopeful. Why? Again, because our profession's been rolling for over 3,000 years, legally or not. Okay. We have nature and complexity on our side. Chinese medicine is a natural science of complexity. We need to practice in complexity and use complexity. You know, Chinese medicine, it exists only for a single reason, actually. And that's to bring the spirit that's in each one of us out into the world. Because that's what the world needs and demands right now. For each of us to become an embodied spirit, Jingshen, right? To do what we came here to do. And that's how we bring heaven to earth and earth to heaven. We are complex beings. And that's why we need a natural science of complexity to care for ourselves. Chinese medicine is a tool. In order to use it properly, we need to heal ourselves. We need to live it. We need to live and teach and heal by example, by becoming embodied spirits ourselves, right? That's what nature wants. It's what nature demands. Okay? You're not going to be able to hide behind the mask of ancient tradition in the future we're about to face. You're going to need to become the tradition, to be it, to make it live through your thoughts, words, actions, and non-actions, right? To play your part in the real world, not just the business world or the professional world. That's gone. It's gone. Don't put any energy into it. Each of us has a unique and important position in the field of Chinese medicine and in the healing of the world, right? This is how we cultivate the future of our medicine together. That's the truth of how we are going to cultivate the future of medicine together. We need to get people off that burning ship and to the safety of our island, at least the ones who want to come, right? There's only one way to get there, and it's by your own healing and by living your own destiny. Will you survive? I don't know. But I do know this. To survive, you are going to need to be a clever hero. You're going to need to become Minjie yourself. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, John. Does anyone have any questions for John? Online or in person? I'll ask the online crew to check the chat box.
Nothing in the chat yet.
Well,
Are you
oh,
guys digesting okay
Megan,
after that?
Megan,
If John remembers what his last line was about being a hero.
Megan would like for you to repeat the last line you said about being a hero.
What did I say? Can anybody else quote me? I don't know. Oh, about being Minjie, about me being Minjie, right? Minjie. So there's there is the history of the name of my Chinese medicine school is the Minjie. We're called the Minjie school, right? And the history behind that that term is that Dr. Richard Tan, who also was one of my primary Chinese medicine teachers, acupuncture teacher, right? He wanted me to have a Chinese name. And I can't remember if Dr. Sonia was there at this event. Were you there? Were you there, Sonia, when Dr. Tan gave me my name?
I don't think I was there.
It was at a big
But
banquet.
I know what the name means, but I don't remember.
It was at a big banquet, and this is after over 20 years of Dr. Tan wanting me to have a Chinese name. I didn't have a Chinese name. Nobody had ever given me a Chinese name, right? And so we're having this big Chinese banquet, and most of the people there are really drunk, and the most drunk person of all was Dr. Tan, right?
Yeah,
And so,
usually.
so this big banquet that's going on, and in the middle of the banquet, Dr. Tan is just plastered, and then he goes, "I've got it!" And he threw all the food off of the table where he was sitting at the banquet table and just cleared the table. And he said, "Give me a pen." And so someone gave him a pen, and then he scribbled this thing. He scribbled these Chinese characters on the big placemats on the table cover, right? He scribbled it on the cover. He goes, "This is John Minnie's name." Boom, and he passed out on the table. So it's a very Taoist moment. So I was like, "Oh my God, what does this mean?" And so what does this mean? So the term Minjie, it means clever hero. It means clever hero or genius hero. Okay, so that's why I use the word. I've never applied that name that Dr. Tan gave to me. I've never applied it to myself, right? But I feel okay applying it to the school and what we practice as Minjie practitioners. Why? Because we need to be clever heroes in order to really practice at the highest level. Okay, so this is one of the things that I tell to my students. I say, one of the most remarkable things about Chinese medicine is that any idiot can practice it. It's true. If you just learn some of the systems, any idiot can practice Chinese medicine. It doesn't require any skill whatsoever. But if you want to be a good practitioner, you have to start putting something into it, right? And if you want to be an exceptional practitioner, you have to be a genius. You have to apply that genius to everything that we do. So that's where the term Minjia comes from and what it refers to. And I expect that of all of my students, because the truth is, we are all born with a certain kind of genius. And what we want to do through the process of our healing and through the process of our true education is to find out what that genius is and to help ourselves cultivate that, develop it, and bring it out into the world. So that's what I meant when I said that last line. Sufficient?
Yes, she said, thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No,
If
well,
any of you other,
go ahead. Nope. I think
I'm just curious if any of you other advanced practitioners, what your experience was when you were in the burning ground.
Okay, so they said currently still in it.
Yeah.
I'm going through all those phases.
Going-
that you mentioned.
Going through all those phases you mentioned, trying to
Yeah.
swim probably.
Yeah.
God, I'm 21
Keep your head-
years in.
keep your head up, you know?
She need it.
Yeah.
Back on the ashes.
Yeah. Yvonne's like, I'm looking back on the ashes. On the
Yeah.
other side of the hill,
Yeah.
looking back at the ashes, yes. But yeah, I think those of you that know, those that haven't passed the 5-year mark or the 20-year mark, yeah, I think you know what he's talking about. We all know that.
Yeah. People with the experience they all shake
Yeah.
their heads and go, "Oh God,
Yeah,
yes."
yeah,
It's a difficult time, and it's
Yeah.
because it requires us to go through this burning ground. It's a kind of long-term initiation. If we want to be really good high-level practitioners, it's required for us to go through that burning ground. And it's not a negative thing if we take it
No.
for what it is. It's definitely not all, smiles and roses and chocolates, but it's, I can say for myself anyway, it's very much worthwhile, even as difficult as it is, and even to the point of looking death in the eye, that's
Yeah. That
that's what it
personal
is.
growth that you go through in those times really
Yeah.
transforms you as a practitioner. That's
Yeah.
really a big part of it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think Suzanne, why don't you come up and say, because I think you're going to do the closing remarks too. Yeah. So Suzanne's going to come up and comment.
I wanted to ask you if you think that there's a difference, or is there something else at play also when many practitioners in this room and that I know have come to acupuncture later in their life as a career,
Mhm.
and we've been through the ashes. We've had a whole other life before we even set foot into an acupuncture school, and we've had the dark years and we've had the existential crisis. And I think sometimes when that happens, we're not as naive about what acupuncture school means and what it brings. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So do you see that in people? I'm wondering about your own experience, like looking at people who come kind of straight into it with really that youthful energy and people who've been through it
Yeah.
already. Mhm.
Yeah. There's definitely a difference. And I would say there's a spectrum between innocence and experience that the people that are more innocent tend to have more energy, just raw energy that they can throw at the thing and get through the burning ground. And the people who have been through different versions of the burning ground in their personal life have more wisdom that they can bring to it. And so hopefully they'll be able to move through it in a more graceful way. Um, all of that level of experience is absolutely helpful. And and in my experience and what I've seen, I would ask you the question, are you ready to do it all over again?
Yeah.
Because there is there's something specific about the practice of Chinese medicine because our medicine is such an integrated practice. It's such an integrated field within itself that addresses so many different dimensions of the human being and the human experience that it just scours things out at a level that is exactly commensurate with the level that you're going to be practicing, right?
Mhm.
So there's something that is almost a de facto shamanistic quality to practicing Chinese medicine, like I say, and it'll be in direct proportion to the kind of practitioner that you're going to be. And the people, oddly, who suffer the most through it, who get through it, wind up being really incredible practitioners. And we learn about this in Chinese astrology as well. You know, Dr. Tan used to say, the people who are the leaders, people who wind up being the leaders, are the people who eat the most shit earlier on in their lives. Very Dr. Tan
That's so
thing to
good.
say. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really true. It's really true. So there's an automatic humbling that comes with the position of a true position of power, right?
Mhm.
And people will respect that. Your patients will really feel that and respect that in you, and give you that respect. And it's very important to sit in that seat of honor in a very mutually respectful way. Mm. So that's how I would answer that.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you want to say anything else? Yeah.
No, thank you, John, for being here as always. Thank you for always wanting to help pass on the knowledge, support the future. Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you. It's always very thought-provoking.
My
And
pleasure.
yeah, well, I'll let Suzanne wrap up.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. It's always such a pleasure. I had the pleasure of we had John Minnie, brother John Minnie, as a guest in our cohort 1. So you've been around since the beginning. You came and did a guest lecture in my cohort, which was 5 years ago, 5 years ago, 2019. And so it's wonderful the continuity that you bring to this as well, and the support that you give to the school. So we really appreciate it.
Thank
And
you. Thank you. I really believe in you guys.
thank you so much.
Hmm.
And you've touched on something that actually is, I think, been a theme today. So we've talked a lot about community. We've talked, we can feel the community here. Everybody who has spoken, our senior practitioners and teachers and mentors, have talked about healing yourself so that you can be the best possible facilitator of healing for your patients. And I think
Yes.
that's a big takeaway for me today. So I hope that you
Yes.
felt that too.
Absolutely. And don't let go of that community. That community is very important. You know, the bonds that you form with your co-students in acupuncture school, they can last a lifetime. I mean, in fact, sitting in the other part of the house right now is my best buddy from acupuncture school that I went through with. We were needling partners together and all that like horrific stuff that we put ourselves through, right? So it's a lifetime bond. It's a lifetime
Yeah.
bond. It's important to acknowledge that and hang on to it because there aren't that many people we can share these experiences and have the kind of vocabulary that we have. you know, that we build together. So hang on to your personal relationships that you guys have created in school. It's really important.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. So we're so thankful that everybody here and online is part of this community. And thank you for joining us today. We have the family that's part of the community, and for Dr. Fair for coming all this way to contribute to this community and help anchor it as well. And to John for joining us as well to just solidify what this means to us and what a celebration. It really is truly a celebration day. So thank you, everybody. That's the end of our program today. Thanks everybody online as well. You're welcome to watch us socialize or socialize with each other. We have cake here and yeah, lots of food and drink. So enjoy. Thanks everybody. Thank you. Bye.